Hello, beautiful humans. How are you? Happy Wednesday evening. I know it's been a while. I have been out of town and trying to do some catch up today. I've spent the whole day doing reading and research and trying to get myself just back into the groove of getting videos edited and up for you guys. Um, I'm so grateful to be back back at home after my trip. I don't know how many of you saw the Mormon Stories episode that we did on Monday. It was 6 hours long. It was a long one about the documentary of Ruby Frankie and Jody Hildebrandt. That was an amazing conversation. I basically have been immersed in that documentary since it dropped on Thursday. Watched it twice, took a ton of notes, and just did a lot to try and make sure I was prepared for that episode. I really enjoyed that discussion. I always love the band, getting the band back together. I love the group of the four of us. It was wonderful to be there. It was a hard, heavy, difficult weekend for that reason, just digging into all of that. And then on top of everything else, getting ready for that episode and then finding out very, very early on Saturday morning that my cousin Lori is going to be appearing on Dateline this Friday, being interviewed by Keith Morrison. And I was very frustrated when I found out that that was happening. So now just trying to sort of, I don't know, wrap my head around how that's going to go on Friday night. So I haven't really thought a whole lot about it other than just to be frustrated initially with the idea that, she's going to have a platform again. Dateline is obviously exploiting this opportunity. I mean, thinking about it from two different sides, thinking about it from the Dateline side, of course, who's going to turn down a jailhouse interview with Lori Vallow Daybell? But also thinking about it from any other standpoint other than the producers at Dateline. It's sort of like, what is she going to say that's new? I really do have a lot of faith in Keith Morrison. I love what he does. I think he's wonderful. I really think that he will be able to sort of hold her feet to the fire in a way that probably most people wouldn't be able to. But just seeing the previews and seeing her response to some of his questions and comments, it's difficult, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm not thrilled that she has a platform. I'm not thrilled that she's going to get to have a Dateline interview so close to her trial, right? Here's the other thing. If she had a competent attorney, her attorney would tell her it's a really bad idea to do an interview about the case so close to trial, right? She's about to enter jury selection at the end of the month. We're about 26 days away from that. So, any attorney would tell her that's a really terrible idea. But obviously, she gets to do whatever she wants because she's Lori, So anyway, it's it's difficult, but it is sort of like, well, hey, I mean, here we go. It's happening. I can't stop it. It's going to be crazy. I can't do anything to change the fact that it's crazy. So we might as well pop our popcorn, have a nice live chat. So I went ahead and scheduled a live stream for Friday night. And in case you haven't seen it yet on my channel, what we're going to do is I'm going to pop on to the live stream about 15 minutes before the episode goes live, the Dateline episode. And we're going to make sure that everybody has a platform to watch the episode on. I obviously can't stream it here on the channel without getting copyright strikes. That's the last thing I wanted. So hopefully what's going to happen is if you have a TV or a computer, you can stream it on wherever you normally watch, and then you can use your phone or some other device to chat with us right here live. We're going to be live. So the camera will be on me, but I will have in another window, I'll have the episode, the Dateline episode up there, and hopefully we'll be able to chat with each other and connect in the comments. I'm going to do my very best not to pause the episode unless there are commercial breaks, in which case I will pause and comment. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm going to try to, there's several platforms where you can stream it for free. For example, the Roku channel, Amazon Prime, YouTube TV. And if you have the Peacock app, or if you're a subscriber to the NBC channel, you should be able to get on and stream it for free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up on the TV over here. So I'm going to have to change my setup so that I'll be able to watch the TV and also watch the chat at the same time. I just figured I didn't want to do it alone, so it'll be nice to have anybody who wants to come and watch it. I can't stream the video or the audio, but what we'll do is we'll come on 15 minutes beforehand. We'll talk, we'll make sure everybody has a place to stream it. And then we'll say 3, 2, 1 stream, and we'll hit the play button all at the same time. So we're going to watch it at the same time, and then we'll be able to chat together. So I'll type, and hopefully we'll not need to vocally interject too much. I'm going to try to restrain myself. So anyway, hopefully if you're seeing this, you have seen that I already posted on my channel. I already have the live stream set up for Friday. What I haven't set up yet is my interview for tomorrow night, which I'm super, super excited about. I interviewed Randy Watts again. For those of you who've been watching everything on the channel, Randy Watts came on and talked about how he went on a double date with Lori and Alex. And then Randy and his wife went on a double date. Randy had some pretty cool tea to spill. He's also an amazing human being. He's written a beautiful book about grief. And I'm probably going to have him on several times. He's just so fascinating. But the other thing that he told me is that he was a detective for the Disney Corporation for a long time. And also, so I decided to interview him about his experiences as a detective for the Disney Corporation. So if you want to know all the background tea on Disney and all of the things that he did while he was working for them, that's going to be tomorrow night. So Martha T, I see that you're very confused. Alex and a date. Yes, absolutely. Randy Watts was working for a sanitation company. And it was the same company that Alex, Lori's brother, was working for. And Alex came into Randy's office one time and said, "Hey, would you like to go on a double date this weekend?" And Randy was like, "Sure, I'll bring my wife. Who's your date going to be?" And Alex said, "It's going to be my sister, Lori." Very weird. I don't know why he would have worded it that way. It's very strange, but you can go watch the episode on my channel. He talks all about it. Yeah, very, very weird. It's like, okay, so if your sister was in town visiting and you wanted to bring her along on a social gathering, like, why would you refer to it as a date? Why would you refer to it as a double date? Like, I could see if you were meeting someone for the first time, or if it was a blind date, then you would just say that. But if it's your sister, I would think that he would say, "Hey, do you want to come with my sister and I to this social gathering?" But that's not the way he worded it. Very strange. I don't understand why he worded it that way. Yeah, want to meet my sister. Not, do you want to go on a double date? And then who's your date going to be? Oh, it's going to be my sister. Super, super weird. So anyway, that episode is already posted. I did that a couple of weeks ago. But the same person, Randy Watts, the same person who went on the double date with Alex and Lori, also was a detective for Disney, and he is going to spill some tea about secrets in the Disney Corporation. So I think that's going to be super fun. That's going to be tomorrow. The episode will come out, and then we'll have a live Q&A afterwards. So if you want to ask him anything about secrets at Disney World, he worked at Disney World, that's going to be super fun. So I know it's been a while. I was out of town this weekend, obviously, so I haven't been posting as much as I normally would. And I just wanted to get on and just kind of talk to you guys about what's been going on. and let you know what's happening with the channel. So obviously covered what's going to happen on Friday. We're going to have what I like to call a hate watch um, for Lori's Dateline interview. And tomorrow night is going to be the Disney episode. And then I actually have a couple more episodes that I'm getting ready to post next week. And then, we're getting ready. We're heading into the trial where jury selection is going to begin just here in 26 days or so. So there's that's happening. I just know it's been a while, and so I wanted to get on and answer any questions that you guys might have had. I was on Surviving the Survivor this morning. For those of you who don't know, Surviving the Survivor is one of my favorite channels. Joel Waldman is a former journalist who also wrote a book with his mom. His mom is a Holocaust survivor, and that's why it's called Surviving the Survivor. I really loved his book, and I've been on his channel several times. If you haven't seen a couple of my interviews on that channel, you should go watch those. They were really fun interviews. I really enjoyed talking with Joel. He's really, really hilarious. And I've come to love his STS Nation chatters and also the COE. So the COE it stands for Chief of Everything. She is Joel Waldman's wife. And she has a second channel. It's STS Talk. And I was there this morning with GD McKelvey of Pretty Lies and Alibis. And we were talking about Lori's upcoming Dateline interview as well as her upcoming trial. So that was a really good episode this morning. If you want to go check that out, I have some of it is on my channel. I didn't get to actually hit the streaming button until we were about 10 or 15 minutes into it. So I think I missed the first little bit of it, but it was a really fun conversation. I love Gigi and I love the COE. So if you have a chance, you can go and check that out. And then I met so many people this weekend at Thrive down in Southern Utah. For those of you who don't know, Thrive Beyond Religion is an organization that puts on meetups for former LDS, ex-Mormons, and also Mormons who are just questioning or having faith crisis. It's a community for you to come and just exist how you are. It's a totally safe place. That was the one thing that I really loved about it more than anything else, is that it's a safe space for you to just be wherever you are in your faith journey. And so, yeah, I was down there in St. George this last weekend, Friday night, all day Saturday, half of the day Sunday at the conference. And then Sunday afternoon, we went to the Meadows massacre site, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a really dark period in Mormon history where some miscommunications and also really hot tensions in Utah history at the time, and also war rhetoric, frankly, from Brigham Young, caused the deaths of a wagon train that was coming through the southern part of the Utah Territory back in 1857. So I got to meet Barbara Jones Brown, who is an amazing historian and also the director of Signature Books. And she gave a lovely lecture. She's co-authored a book about the Mountain Meadows Massacre. And she was able to give a little bit of a lecture there at the actual site. There are a couple of monuments there to the people who were fallen, men, women, and children, 100 of them. It was a tragic event that happened coincidentally on September 11th of 1857. And yes, Becky Mc412, they blamed it on the indigenous locals for a very, very long time, until research started to come out to prove the contrary, that it was actually Mormon militiamen who perpetrated this attack. So, of course, it was a horrific and terrible event in Mormon history, but I'm always an advocate, as you guys know, of getting the truth out there and talking about the real history. So, Anyway, I had a beautiful experience out there at Mountain Meadows. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous part of the country there in southwestern Utah. And I was able to meet so many beautiful people. In fact, I've got lots of interviews scheduled for you guys with the people that I met there at the conference. And I'm so looking forward to being able to post all of that for you guys. So it's always a little bit, I don't know, it throws me off a little bit whenever I have to go out of town and then come back into town and try to get back into my routine. So today was a little bit of like a baptism by fire of like, I had appointments and interviews and everything. And I think I've been sitting in this chair since about 11 o'clock this morning with very little of a break. But it's been lots of research. It's been lots of editing, as well as kind of trying to listen into some other channels about things that are going on. So anyway, please feel free to drop in the comments any questions that you have for me about Lori's case, things that are upcoming. For those of you who missed it, I did do a short live from Southern Utah where I talked about some updates to Lori's case. So if you haven't watched that yet, you don't know yet that Judge Boyce denied Lori's motion to have her 2 cases dismissed. Did you see my microphone move just now? That's my dog. What are you doing? You're supposed to be over here. That's right. Over here. Thank you. Sorry. I don't know how much you guys can see or hear of my dogs. Sometimes you might just like see a random tail wag, or you might hear their little feet on the floor. I love my doggos too, but they're basically velociraptors. They destroy everything. They jump over everything. And they think that they're lap dogs, but they're actually not. If I let Valkyrie come up here right now, stop. Please stop. Stop. You were let out like 5 minutes ago before I got on the live. So why? Why do you have to go out right now? I don't know what to tell you guys. Stop. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so we were talking about Lori's case. She had some motions on the table where she wanted to have both of her Arizona cases dismissed based on the fact that she believed her speedy trial rights had been violated. Yeah, and you guys can hear it, right? Some people are like, "Oh, I don't hear anything at all," and then other people are like, "Yeah, I totally hear." It's definitely like drumming over here. Okay, so I'm going to try to pull this up real quick. Of the latest denial, just in case that you guys didn't see it, because I did go live while I was in Utah, but it was sort of it was a last minute thing. I didn't advertise it, and also it was short, and so a lot of people probably did not see it. So let me see if I can share my screen here. No more BS. Thanks for sharing this. I kind of have a statement. Lori has ruined so many families. Don't let her control your family life. I know you want to be there for her trial, etc., but she's not worth missing out on your memories. I totally agree. I have a lot going on at the end of April, and I am not going to miss my family events. That last week in April, my daughter's getting her learner's permit. Another daughter's getting married. Another daughter has a baby due at the same time, which is my grandson. So I'm not going to miss that. Don't you worry. I'm not going to allow Lori to get in the middle of that. I'll be there for what I can be, but I definitely have my priorities in a different place. Okay, so here it is. What I shared over the weekend. No, you can't come up over there. You can come over here. Right here. You can come right here. That's it. That's all. Right here. She's like, but I don't want to get up over there. Okay. So if we go through this little motion over here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. For those of you who did not see, this was back on the 25th of February, but I didn't get around to talking about it until this weekend. So basically, this is the court coming back, Judge Boreski coming back with Lori, with an answer for Lori's petition. So he's got the defendant's motion to dismiss both of the cases, the state's response to the defendant's motion, and then the defendant's reply to the state's response to the motion. And then this is all Judge Boreski says. I absolutely love that all he gives her is a paragraph here, and that's it. It says, contrary to the defendant's assertions, Arizona Rules of Criminal Procedure Rule 8.3 does not apply to this defendant, as she never provided a written request for disposition pursuant to the requirements of Rule 8.3. Nothing in the defendant's pleadings changes the court's previous findings regarding the appropriate waiver of time as detailed in its ruling denying dismissal filed January 27, 2025. The defendant's motion, again, disregards the exclusion of time as requested by her prior attorneys and as required during the Rule 11 process. So basically what Judge Boreski is saying is that, well, let me just read this first because this is kind of sweet. It says, it is ordered denying the defendant's motion to dismiss both of the cases. I won't read all of the numbers for violation of Speedy Trial Act filed February 4th, 2025. So basically what Judge Boreski is saying there is that Lori has no standing to dismiss either of those cases because she did not take into account the fact that her previous attorneys filed a Rule 11 hearing, that they wanted her to be evaluated for competency to stand trial. And that time period adds on to the speedy trial rights time period. And so she failed to take that into consideration. And so therefore, the judge denied her request to dismiss both of those cases on those grounds. So anyway, if you hadn't been here before and you didn't know that that was the case, her motion to dismiss both of the cases has been denied. Now, there will be another hearing. It's going to be basically a status conference that's going to happen at 8:30 a.m. Arizona time on Tuesday, March 11th. And I will do the same for that as I have done for the last status conferences, where I will be live that morning. And I will, I'll be reading Justin Lum's live tweets as they come out. And then once the hearing footage is released, I will live stream that here on my channel as well, so that you can see and hear everything that actually took place. So I enjoy the idea of reading Justin's live tweets as they come out, because he gives a very concise description of what's happening in the courtroom real time. It gives me an opportunity to kind of think about everything that's happening before I actually have to hear and see Lori in court. And that's helpful to me. So I'm hoping it's helpful to you also. Justin's X account name, for those of you who want to know, I always, I retweet everything that he puts out about the case. So his account name is jlumfox10. I will put that here in the chat. And then I will also put in mine. I use X mainly for Grok, but also, you know, I do post things there. I didn't really put a lot of effort into trying to get a good channel name over there on X, because I'm using it for research purposes, but there's my X as well. I repost everything that Justin puts on there, as well as posting my live streams and my videos that I do. They get posted on X as well. I think I have like 12 followers on Twitter, so it's not like it's a big deal, but I do use it for research purposes. Justin Lum does not really post on YouTube, but Fox 10 Phoenix does. And so whenever I want to see the actual proceedings of what happens in the courtroom, I go over to the Fox 10 Phoenix YouTube channel, which I will show you right here. And I will post that in the chat. Oh, thank you, Eleanor Nelson. He also posts that on Facebook. And that's the Fox 10 Phoenix channel. So all of the court proceedings and all of the reports that Justin Lum does are posted on the Fox 10 Phoenix YouTube channel. But he does post on Facebook and Twitter. I think he double posts. So everything that he puts on Twitter or X also shows up on his Facebook feed as well. So I hope, okay, so here's a question, or I guess comment from Becky McForwin. This is why these narcissists screw themselves by being their own counsel. They think they know the system, like Casey Anthony is a pro. Yeah, I mean, it's not that they actually are knowledgeable about the court system or about legal proceedings. But they are narcissistic enough to believe that they know more than an attorney. And I think Lori was upset with her representation because during her last trial, because she did not want them to throw Chad under the bus. She did not want Chad brought into it at all. And so I think she was upset with them for several different reasons and just decided that she thought she could do a better job, which I, of course, think is hilarious, especially when the Judge Boreski was asking about her prior experience. She basically said, oh, yeah, I have lots of experience from a prior court case. And the judge said, are you talking about your divorce case? And she was like, yes, and a criminal proceeding. And it's like obvious to everyone that she's talking about her Idaho trial, but she's trying to pretend like she didn't, like she wasn't on trial. I don't know. Anyway, thank you, Hope Grace, for the super sticker. That's super kind of you. I appreciate you. Thanks, Tyler. It was good to see Tyler at Thrive in Utah. A band groupie. Yeah, the band is super fun. I always enjoy those conversations that we have together. What I love the most about the band is that there's zero ego, there's zero competition. The four of us have different backgrounds, different skill sets, different opinions, different perspectives. And yet, whenever we get together, it is a seamless conversation. And what is so fun is that what happens before and after you guys see us on the live streams, it's exactly the same as what you see on the screen. We talk with each other the same way before and after the live streams as you see us talking with each other during the episode. What you don't see, though, is that each of us have to sneak out to go to the restroom during a 6-hour episode because none of us can last the entire time. So we actually have to wait. I had to wait until the camera was on certain people before I snuck out, etc. So there's a little behind the scenes tea for you, is that actually John didn't go to the bathroom the whole time. I don't know why I'm telling you that, but he must have just like, he's used to it. He's used to the super long episodes, but yeah, 6 hours it was a really long time. But yeah, we were able to, I don't know, I was thinking to myself, okay, the content of the actual documentary is 2.5 hours. And I was thinking, yep, for sure, we're going to go longer than that. For those of you who didn't want to watch the documentary, I completely understand, because it was very heavy. It was very dark. It was really hard for me to watch the documentary a couple of times within the span of 3 days, take notes on it, bring in other video clips and sort of make other connections just to make sure that we had a good episode for you guys. But heavy. And I was glad that I had Thrive as sort of like an intermediary to kind of break that up. So Becky Mc412, John needs to hydrate. That's possible. Yeah. I personally could not get through the whole episode without drinking lots of water. So of course I had to sneak out and go to the bathroom. I think I went right before the episode started. I went once during the middle of the episode, and it was pretty crazy. We never know how long it's going to last. And we knew that Lauren had a flight going out. And so we were all kind of thinking, okay, let's try to finish by the time Lauren has to leave for her flight. But then mid-episode, she is changing her flight. And she went ahead and changed it and ended up being able to be there the whole time. So I was really grateful about that. So thank you for this. Dom's mom 725, your collabs with John, Lauren, and Mindy, always long, but worth every single minute. So enlightening, informative. You guys do a great job. Thank you. I really appreciate that. You're right, Black Widow. It is not good to hold it too long. And everyone here is Valkyrie. She's not putting her head up. She's trying to pretend like she doesn't exist right now. Here she is. I know. You've been outside. You are okay. I promise. I'm sure that there's probably a squirrel in the tree or something like that is happening. And that's why she's going crazy, because she wants to go outside. I might have to pause here for a second, you guys, because she's super insistent. I know. Look, you're famous. Look, you're on YouTube. Look at you. You're on YouTube. Okay, get down. Get down. Get down. Okay. I want to hear more about this. SCAB says your closing statement is why I'm here tonight. For whatever reason, it hit me hard, but good. I know. I'm trying to think of what my closing statement is. If it was basically that if you've experienced anything like what the Frankie kids and Kevin went through, that it's not your fault and that you did not deserve it. That's what I'm thinking of. If that is correct, let me know. Pause for about 15 seconds so I can let my dogs out. I will be right back, I promise. Okay. Okay, you guys. My question to my dogs is like, why do you care so much that there are squirrels in the trees? They're always here. Okay, so this is that is what you're talking about. Yeah, so I don't know why it is that came to mind as we were talking, but I think there are so many people who resonate, and myself included, as I was watching that footage and thinking so much about my family of origin and the different dynamics that existed that were parallel between my family and between Ruby's family. I just was feeling for all of the people out there who've been through something similar and watch what's going on in the Frankie household and just, have it sort of triggers you, right? Because you see that same dynamic playing out in someone else's house. And it can be really destabilizing. So I just felt like I wanted to voice that for people who've been through something similar. And I think it's important to say, I think a lot of people who go through those things in their household growing up, there's not a lot of outlet for that. And I definitely felt it for myself when I went no contact and then very low contact with my parents. There was a lot of judgment. There was a lot of shame. There were a lot of people telling me, well, those are your parents. They're always going to be your parents. You should just forgive them, especially in a church context. So just forgive and forget. And I do forgive my parents. I don't blame them for what I went through as a child. I definitely think that there were a lot of things they were not aware of that they couldn't have been aware of. But I've also often said that if there's one thing that I do begrudge them, it is that in the wake of unhealthy dynamics in the household, lots of arguing, lots of fighting, kids fighting with each other, parents fighting with each other, parents and kids fighting with each other, things not being peaceful, not being happy, not being smooth. And I remember my dad often expressing regret and saying, I don't want you kids to fight with each other the way that I fought with my siblings. Okay, so then it's incumbent upon you to find out how to do it a different way, to change the dynamic somehow so that you're not perpetuating the same cycles over and over. So anyway, I just think that none of us have perfect parents and none of us are perfect parents. I certainly was not. And definitely for at least the first 5 or 6 years that I was a parent, I did things the way that my parents did. And then I woke up and I decided that I wanted something different for my relationship with my kids. I did a lot of reading and researching. I did my very best to try to change that dynamic. And it still took me another 10 years before I was really a healthier parent. So the change is slow and it takes a long time. But I think probably one of the most important things that I learned was to apologize for my shortcomings and my mistakes and ask my children how I could better show up for them. So if there's something that I do begrudge my parents, it's that that type of introspection never really took place. And I don't hold any animosity towards them for not being able to repair that or change it. It's just that our relationship today is an indication of the level to which they've been able to be introspective and to change those dynamics that happened in our childhood, in my childhood, in their young parenting. So I just want to say, Becky Mc412 says you had some amazing points, how Jay was possessed and gets prayers. Oh yeah, Jody, how Jody was possessed and gets prayers and the kids get tortured. And how when you come from abuse, you can feel more pain from the silent person than the physical abuser. Yeah, that was the hard part for me. If you haven't watched it yet, you can watch it on Hulu. That's the main place where the documentary was dropped. If you don't have Hulu, I'm not really sure. I don't know if they have put it out on YouTube or not. And I wondered this too. Eleanor Nelson has a couple of comments about this. I wondered if Kevin was on Xanax or something during the documentary. He was talking so slowly. And this is why I said at the very end of the episode, just in case you didn't make it all 6 hours, as long as we're talking about Kevin's behavior, I began to feel towards probably about 2/3 through the second episode that Kevin's behavior seemed performative. He seemed scripted. It seemed like he was pausing at all the right times. He was just emotional enough without getting overwhelmed. And it seemed like he really was playing to the crowd. I don't know if that's the case. I certainly hope it's not. I hope that he was being genuine, but it did really give me some pause. It made me question, is he being sincere or is he playing things up? Has he taken a page out of Ruby's book? Is he learning to manipulate the audience to be on his side? I don't know. I certainly hope that it was genuine. I hope that I'm wrong about that. But genuinely, I had that thought, and then I went back and watched it a second time just to see, was it just me? Was I just tired? And to be honest with you, I really felt like it was a little bit scripted and it was a little bit performative. I hope I'm wrong about that. Anyway. I did not stream it on my channel. It's just on Mormon Stories. So in the past, there have been a couple of times when we have streamed everything simultaneously to John's channel, Hidden True Crime, and my channel as well. And since then, we found out that YouTube doesn't really like that because they they have sort of an AI that detects when content is similar across channels. And when I live stream something that is happening on someone else's channel, it's not really a copyright strike, but it just is like an alert that basically says, hey, this content is the same on these 3 channels. And YouTube sort of like slows things down, slows down the algorithm, doesn't put it out as much until one of the channels responds and says, hey, this is not a copyright violation. It's just that we simultaneously streamed it. So back in January, when we were going over Sherry Frankie's book, and we did that, John let us know that, hey, I think YouTube doesn't like it when we simultaneously stream to these other channels. So let's not do it this time and see what happens. Well, sure enough, that episode got boosted, and it is one of the biggest episodes on Mormon Stories right now. So we decided not to stream it to this channel as well. Instead, in return, John came on my channel last month. We talked about the similarities between Lori and Ruby's narcissism. And that episode did really well on my channel. So I felt like that was a good trade-off. So maybe he will come on again in exchange for this other episode. Or we'll find some other way to kind of figure it out. Also, though, me being on Mormon Stories is good exposure for my channel. I feel like Mormon Stories supporters come over here and like my channel and subscribe to my channel. So if you're from Mormon Stories, or if you found me because of Mormon Stories, just type MSP in the chat, just so that I know. Like, there are lots of people who came here just because I was on Mormon Stories, and I really appreciate that. So me going on other channels, even if it's not simultaneously streamed over here, I feel like it still does really help the channel. So anyway, it's good for me to do those collaborations. I really love collabs. I love going on other channels and inviting other channels over here. So I'm going to be doing more of that in the very, very near future. I met at least 6 people at the Thrive conference that I'm going to be interviewing here on this channel. So I'm excited about that. So I'm going to just try to answer some comments and questions in the chat here. SCAB says, thank you so much for going there. I forgave my folks when they died. And that's a super hard, grief-filled, difficult thing. I think that I have gotten to the point where I realize my parents' shortcomings. I realize their generational trauma. I realize that the things that they are and are not capable of. And I have forgiven them in the way that I absolve them from needing to be a certain thing. I know exactly what I do and do not need from my parents. And so I've changed my expectations for our relationship. And that, in a sense, has allowed me to forgive them for not being the parents that I needed them to be. That, all of that being said, I still do maintain some pretty tight boundaries around how much time and space that I give them in my life. So I'm here to support anybody who feels the same. Tony says, I totally understand that dynamic, Megan, and the boundaries you've needed to make. And yeah, just here to support anyone else who feels the same way. Joe Tall Chief, I totally understand not wanting to watch that if your parent was abusive, especially if they were performative. In other words, like they were super happy, shiny in front of people in the public, and then abusive in private. This will probably be pretty triggering to you, so you don't need to watch it. What you can do, though, is you can go watch the Mormon Stories episode, because we watched it so that you don't have to. We pretty much go over all of the important points in the documentary without actually showing the footage. There are some quotes that we reference, but again, it's Mindy reading the quotes and not actual Ruby or actual Chad or actual Kevin saying it. So probably it would be less triggering. I think it's really important to understand these dynamics without necessarily watching the whole thing, right? I think ignoring what happened is harmful, because it's easy to turn a blind eye to these situations and not dig into them. What's harder is to confront it and to face the facts of it and to examine the things in our own lives that are similar. It's hard work to do. Don't get me wrong. I totally understand people who are not ready yet to do that work. But if you are ready to dig into it, if you are ready to face it, a good way to do it is to not watch the documentary, but go watch the episode on Mormon stories, because you don't have to actually see it in action. Just hearing the description of it, it's a little bit less jarring than actually seeing it live. Martha T has a question. Raising my kids in the church, I see the community it provides so vital. We don't have local family. I can't justify taking that away from them, but I'm a spiritual abuse survivor. So that's really difficult. Sorry, pause 1 second. And then Martha goes on to say, I'm wondering if I'm crazy to make this decision. Any thoughts on this? So Martha, you and your kids can find community in a lot of different places. It doesn't have to be the Mormon church. It doesn't have to be a place where secrecy and shame are so prevalent. If you're looking for community, if you're looking for a good moral, spiritual foundation for your kids, it doesn't have to be this. It can be other things. It can be secular things. It doesn't even have to be spiritual things. Especially if you're a survivor of spiritual abuse. And that was what caused me to want to bring my youngest daughter out so vehemently, because I recognized she was getting to the age where she was going to be taught purity culture and modesty culture and shame, and especially body shame. I did not want her to go through that. And so I pulled her out of it, knowing it was going to take away a little bit of that foundation, but also knowing that we can find that foundation in other places. So I understand your struggle, Martha, and I understand how difficult it is as a parent to make those tough choices. So no matter what you choose, I hope that you will trust your instinct and what you know is best for you and your kids. But just to validate that, if you choose a different community, there are other communities out there where you can give your kids that foundation and that community and that structure without the shame and without the spiritual abuse. And I really hope that you find it. So thank you. Yeah, so Be Real 22. I believe Kevin is accepting some responsibility for leaving his children. He says at the very end of the documentary, I was their last line of defense and I packed my bags and walked away. So I think he does recognize the harm of his actions. I believe even though he was complicit, he does have a lot of blame. I think he is now trying to repair. I think he's now doing better. So I don't excuse his behavior necessarily, because for me and for most other parents, like, your kids are number one above everything else. But I do think that he's doing better. I think that he's trying harder. And just to address this as well, didn't he call the police on his oldest daughter when she was trying to get her things out of their house? Yes, that is true. However, I really think that he was still pretty brainwashed at that point. This was very fresh after the kids were rescued, and I think he was still deconstructing the cognitive dissonance and the circumstances where he would have done anything for his wife, but coming to the realization that what she was asking him to do was harmful and abusive. It took him a while to get there, and I don't blame him for that time that it takes to get there. I think what's difficult is that in the moment he made the wrong choice. Absolutely. He never should have left. But he was doing it because he was brainwashed and because he believed he was going to lose everything. And he was trying to do what he could to preserve what he believed he had, which in reality was nothing. He didn't have anything. It was Ruby and Jody manipulating him. And I don't believe, if the kids had never been, if the kids had never escaped and they had either died or something else happened, I don't think Kevin ever would have really gotten his family back. So I think R, little r, is a hero for escaping, and little e, they're both heroes for having gone through what they went through, surviving, and then now getting to the point where they can speak out about what they experienced as really, really harmful, and also forgiving their dad enough to give him a chance to repair and to do better. As far as I understand now, Kevin has custody of all the 4 younger children, and Chad and Sherry are willing to engage with him. They're having family dinners every Sunday night. So that to me says a lot, because if your older children who were estranged are willing to come back and accept your apology and repair, then that means that Kevin must be doing something right at this point. So I give him credit for that. I agree with this. Dom's mom, 725. I thought that too, but Chad and Sherry are so sincere and they seem to believe their dad or have forgiven him at least. So give him a little more credibility to me. I don't doubt he regrets. I agree with you 100%. I think he regrets a lot of his behavior. I think he's doing his best to repair after all of that. It is crazy for an entire year, but I just think he was so brainwashed. Ruben in Boston says, to play devil's advocate, he's given some form of that same interview dozens of times by now. So he probably wasn't as emotional as you'd think, but that means he was trying to act emotional when, let me find you again, Ruben. Did you continue? I don't see it. So sorry. I don't find the rest, but I see what you're saying. He has given that interview a lot of times. It's possible that, it's just like me when I talk about my difficult traumatic experiences. The more that I talk about it, the less emotional I am. The emotion still does hit me from time to time, but for the most part, I'm able to talk about things without it activating me emotionally. I still feel it, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't take me out. So I think maybe that's what you're trying to say, Ruben, here, is that Kevin um, has enough practice telling this story that it doesn't hit him as bad. And I think that's a good thing. Thank you so much, C. Charles. You're always here supporting the band's discussion. And I had so much fun. I really appreciated it. Yeah, so there is some things going on with Chad too. However, he's so young, I think he'll find his way. Yeah, I mean, he's just barely coming out of it. And I think when we were talking about Sherry's book, one of the things that struck me so much is how articulate she was and how um, she seemed to have such a good perspective being out of that dynamic for such a short time frame. It took me such a long time coming out of my family situation before I was really able to talk about it articulately. And so um, I have a huge amount of respect for Sherry and for where Chad is right now too, because he's not perfect. Obviously, none of them are. None of us are. Let's be honest. But for what he's gone through, he's in a pretty decent place right now. I agree with you on some level, okay? But also be real too. Having been the victim of coercive control, it's very foggy. The blinders are on. You only see what they want you to see, and they keep over and over trying to get you to go back to giving them what they want and not thinking about what they did that was wrong to get there. So it's pretty difficult to come out of that situation and not have been victimized on some level. So while I agree somewhat with what you're saying in that he's an adult, he should have made different choices, but at the same time, even adults can be manipulated and controlled and can fall prey to these dynamics. Me personally, I woke up at some point and was like, not my kids. I was a better mama bear for my kids, standing up for them than I ever was for myself. Kevin didn't get there, and I don't think that that's excusable from the standpoint that he's an adult, but we also do have to remember how powerful it is when you're being brainwashed and controlled by another human being that you really trust. So that's a difficult thing. I'm going to let you guys discuss that for just a second while I let my daughter in the front door here. Hold on. All right, guys. Sorry for the pause. Little commercial break there. I don't know. I don't know what is wrong with you. Okay. So, oh, hey, Kaya, how are you doing? Good to see you. Margarita came through true crime. Martha T came through Mormon stories. Yeah, we're just going to end up being the band, even with all of the clever ideas and names that you guys are giving us. Actually, I love looking at all the names, but yeah, we're probably just going to end up still being the band, right? Thank you so much. Yes, thanks to everyone for being here. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the subscribing. So the band is Lauren Matthias, Mindy Caldwell, John DeLynn of Mormon Stories podcast, and me. Lauren Matthias is from Hidden True Crime. For those of you who don't know, Lauren Matthias gave me my first really big interview. Justin Lum gave me my very, very, very first interview back when Lori Vallow was on trial back in 2022. I reached out to him and I said, hey, everybody's talking about how great Lori was. I didn't see her that way. I'm a family member, spent some time with her. So he interviewed me first. And then after that, it was Lauren Matthias. And after she interviewed me, she recommended to John DeLynn that he go ahead and listen to the emails that I was sending him saying, hey, Chad Daybell is just like Joseph Smith. He's a cult leader. We need to talk about this. And so we all ended up being super good friends. Mindy Caldwell was there when I was interviewed on Mormon Stories podcast on, I think it was May 1st of 2022, just right in the middle of Lori's trial. And at that point, I think my interview was one of the most watched interviews on Mormon Stories podcast. And then when Jesse Hildebrand came on, I think my interview had like 250,000 views. Jesse Hildebrand came on Mormon Stories shortly thereafter when the Ruby Frankie Jody Hildebrand case broke. And their interview has like 1 million views. They eclipsed me like 4 times over. And it was amazing to see them and their strength. And for those of you who don't know, Jesse is the one who gave me my very first tattoo. And we spent some time together in Seattle, bonding over true crime and our family stories and how similar they were. And just having a great time unpacking, well, not a great time, but I should say just like supporting each other and unpacking the trauma that both of us have been through. So pretty amazing. Eleanor asks, have you ever written a story imagined of your parents' childhood? Yeah, I mean, I know a lot about my parents' childhood. And I've thought a lot about that generational trauma and how it gets repeated. And I think I've said this many times before, and not to get too woo on anybody, but this is a biological truth actually, is that, you know, it's true that when female fetuses are formed in the womb, the eggs of their future children are formed in that at that same exact time. So female babies are born already with the eggs of their future children already in their ovaries. Isn't that fascinating? And so what that means, if you believe that the body keeps the score, which I absolutely 100% do, your body stores trauma in your cells, the anxiety and the cortisol hormones, those adrenaline rushes that you get when you're under attack, when you don't feel safe. Those feelings, those emotions, those hormones get stored in your cells. And when you're a female, you're also storing those hormones in the eggs that are in your ovaries. So when my grandmother was experiencing stress from the Great Depression, when she was experiencing scarcity mentality from the Great Depression, when she was experiencing the loss of her father going off to war in World War II, when her husband was a mechanic during World War II, anticipating that he might be called up to the draft, the stress and the cortisol and the adrenaline that she was feeling during that time was affecting the babies that she was bearing during that time. So my mother was born with the trauma in her cells of my grandmother's trauma experiencing the Great Depression in World War II. And that means that trauma was already in me because my mother was already carrying those eggs in her ovaries. And the stress that my mother experienced with my father as a Vietnam era veteran in the Air Force, potentially being called up to active duty, and all of the things that he went through, bearing the stress of that. So I was born, and my children were born already with the stress and the anxiety and the cortisol and the adrenaline that my mother experienced when I was in her womb. So it is a literal manifestation of generational trauma when you think about it. None of us can avoid it. There's no way around it. But what can mitigate it is a family system where children are loved and valued and accepted for who they are, and where the parents see their role not as a controlling, shaping, molding person who is going to change this child into what they want it to be, but more as a guide and a guardian of protecting them, of course, from physical and emotional harm, but also introducing them to lots of ideas and lots of different ways of thinking and lots of different ways of worshiping and lots of different ways of relating to the world. And then also just allowing their natural personality traits and curiosities and strengths and weaknesses to come to the surface, to be dealt with in real time, to make it safe to fail, to allow children to be who they're going to be and to pursue the things that are meaningful and valuable to them without the adults imposing their worldview, presenting their worldview as an option, but not making it mandatory that is the thing that needs to happen. So children develop a lot more resiliency when they are loved and valued for who they are and for what their curiosities and strengths are, rather than having it imposed upon them. So there is a way to get out of that generational trauma. There is a way to break free from those cycles, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of introspection. It just takes a lot of truth telling and a lot of ability to look at yourself and your own weaknesses and be honest about your shortcomings and the things that you need to fix and change. So anyway, that was probably a lot more than you guys wanted to hear. And sorry for the cameras here, the chat is here. So I apologize. I'm trying to look for comments and questions that I need to address. Um, Diana says, "Can we please place bets on how long before the judge kicks Lori out of court? I've watched the previews and she's obnoxious. She needs meds." I don't know how long it'll be before he kicks her out of court. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see how she is with an actual jury in there, because I think Lori's gonna be very cognizant of looking bad in front of the jury. So I think she's gonna play to the jury. She's gonna be charismatic. She's probably gonna be a little flirty, like Keith Morrison said she can be. I think she's gonna try to be respectful of the judge. She has been so far. She's been insistent in her motions. She has been very opinionated, right? But she hasn't really been disrespectful. She may have been uninformed, not really knowing what she's talking about, but she's at least been respectful. So there's a part of that I'm hoping is going to come out, during the trial, where she remains respectful of the judge, respectful of the jury, cognizant of the fact that she needs to be viewed by the jury as being competent, smart, all of those things. I'm hoping she's going to keep her behavior in check. But if she doesn't, I have absolutely no doubt Judge Boreski has no patience for shenanigans and he will call her out. So I don't know. It might be interesting, Diana. Maybe we should have a channel competition on that, because I don't know. Part of me thinks that she's going to be on her best behavior, but there is always that little contingent of like Lori being Lori, where she definitely could possibly get reprimanded, and the judge could order that she go back to having competent counsel represent her. MB, I see you in this, and I'm grateful for that. So I just want to let you know I see you. I see you. I'm just sorry, guys, reading comments and trying to see what things I need to address. If you have questions, please call attention to it visually so that I can see that. I agree with this, Dom's mom. I think he does have real regret. And I agree with this too, Veronica. Younger kids need a parent. He's the better of the two. I hope he's in therapy. I definitely do. And also there's this concept that the state has of the good enough parent. And I don't know about other states, but in the state of Texas, the standard is the good enough parent. If they're providing for their physical well-being and they're not in any danger, they kind of call that good enough, even though emotional safety, I think, is very, very important. The court doesn't really have a definition for that. Unless the child is being blatantly emotionally abused and they're willing to testify against their parent, it's pretty hard to get a judge to remove a parent's rights on those grounds. So he is the better of the two. Kids do need a parent. I think that the biological parent is the better choice than foster care if it's possible. And in this case, it seems like it is, because it seems like Kevin is really trying hard. So, I'm glad, Kaya. I'm glad my puppies could bring you some joy, even though they bother me enormously. I think I'm really behind on these comments. I think I took too long letting dogs out and everything. I agree with this. I think Sherry having a relationship with Kevin says a lot about how he's grown. So, Lamisa, thank you so much for being here. I always love seeing you, and MB too, like all of you guys who are the channel stands. I just appreciate seeing you guys so much. Yeah, it's been a busy day, but this is what I get for going out of town, right? Then I've got to catch up when I get back. That's just the way that it goes. Yeah, Kevin lets the dogs run the house. Good for him. He seems to have grown since the documentary. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Lori does not have any introspection, and she doesn't have any filter. So she doesn't see how ridiculous she is, And she doesn't see the fact that the rest of us view her as ridiculous. She thinks she's awesome and amazing and wonderful and charming and charismatic and smart and talented. And nothing anyone else can say is going to change her mind about that. So, um, yeah, sorry, Kaya, I agree with this a little bit. Yep. And Lamisa, I see this too, right? I can respect and value, but still not trust the adult kid's forgiveness of Kevin growing up high demand religion. I would have said anything just to ease the tension. I totally agree with that. I was there at one point too. So, hey, AT chick from the future in Thailand. I actually just met somebody from Thailand this last weekend, and they invited me to come. So, at some point, I'm going to be there with you guys. And I agree with this too. The kids desperately want calm. They'll likely have emotional hiccups, and I bet in a few years the kids will distance themselves again, possibly multiple times. Yeah, it's going to be a process and a practice, right, of repairing all these relationships. It's going to be hard, and I can't imagine doing it in the public eye where people are picking everything apart. If people had picked apart my family, certainly I would have had some blame that fell at my feet for the way that I handled the stress and the pressure and the anger and everything that was going on in my family at the time. So it makes it that much harder to heal when you have the public picking apart your every action. So I just hope that people will give them space and grace to heal in the way that is going to be the best and the fastest for them. Lamisa says the children seem wonderful. 0/no thanks to either parent, grandparent, or adults in their lives. All credit goes to them. I agree with that as well. Yeah, so this too, I'll give Kevin points for taking action for his kids and other children. However, I'll never be able to fully trust him. I don't know about never, but I think, by his actions, right? And when his words and actions start to more closely match up, that's how you can tell when somebody really has made an effort to repair and change. And absolutely, Eleanor, I bet Sherry was parentified, is what we call it. She was an extra mom. She was the oldest, and she probably did a lot to take care of those kids. Um, yeah, a lot of you guys are saying kind of reiterating kind of what we've said. So thank you guys. I'm not ignoring your comments. It's just that if they're repeating things that we've already gone over, I'm not going to show them because I'm trying to get to other questions and comments. And I appreciate you guys supporting each other in the chat. I always love it when somebody shares something difficult or painful, and there's a lot of love and support, and and just virtual hugs for everyone who is going through similar things. So thank you for this. I love the band too. It is relaxed. It really is just a conversation between friends. If the cameras were not going, we would have been having a very similar conversation, similar pace, similar, respect for each other. And what I love about it is that just all the different backgrounds that we come from, the different ways that we inform each other, and the different like spectrum of Mormonism that we're on, and just that we're each able to bring those things together and hold each other space for those things, and 100% respect for every single person on that panel. And just that's a really rare thing. A lot of times when you're in a group with 4 or 5 people who are talented, who are intelligent, there's somewhat like a jockeying for position and a little bit of jealousy and a little bit of competition, and that there is zero of that with the band. And that's one of the things I love about it so much. It is just smart friends talking. And yeah, Lauren and John and I and Margie as well, and Lauren's producer, we all went out to dinner afterwards, and it was really fun to listen to Lauren and Margie talk about the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case, which I don't have an opinion on. I've just been back here, sitting back, watching everything, observing everything, and I have no comment at this point. Yeah, and how does time pass so quickly? Like when we got to 4 hours, I was sort of feeling like, oh, this is heavy, it's weighty. But when we got to the end, I was like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I was fine. And then I was like, 6 hours? We did 6 hours? Crazy. Oh, man. Thank you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all your support. Hey, thanks Dom's mom for being a member for 7 months. That is awesome. OM Hart found me through Lauren. Thank you. Yeah, the Sean Little Bear interview was very eye-opening. And I definitely learned some things from that. Yep, those epigenetics. So yeah, it's interesting, Kaya. She says, in my experience, a primary abuser is much easier to sort out in your mind as someone that did obvious harm. And despite what you may or may not have done, it wasn't deserved, right? So you can point to, like, here is a bruise right here. Here's the scar right here, right? But with someone who does nothing about it, you begin to wonder what it is about yourself as a person that's so defective that you weren't worth protecting. That is so beautifully and succinctly put, and that's exactly how I felt. It was really, really hard. Yeah, a lot of it is complex. Thank you so much. Yeah, but this is the bottom line, right? Like with my kids when we were going through our hard stuff, like the buck stops here. I'm going to get them out of the house. Anyway. Sherry, Frankie, and Tylee were living quite parallel lives, being abused and harmed in plain sight, also parenting siblings growing up too fast. Oh, yeah, that's heavy. And I'm sad about that too. Thank you for pointing that out. It's an important thing to think about. Yeah, every cell carries memory, and that severe stress changes the chemical functions of the brain. Exactly. Yeah, this is what I'm looking forward to, actually, MB. I am looking forward to Keith Morrison putting the screws to Lori and actually shutting down some of her BS. And I'm really hopeful for how that part of it is going to turn out. I think that's one of the main reasons why I'm going to be watching. So, yeah. And you're right. She can't hold back her true colors for that long. And I wonder how long the actual interview was. Now, the episode is going to be about 2 hours. And I understand that Colby has some part in it. And I think there are some other people who are going to be interviewed and they have a part in it too. I want to say Lauren maybe even is going to have, I don't know. She might have said that she got cut out, but I think they at least interviewed her. So I'll be interested to see what those supplemental parts are. And the longer that she's there in front of Keith, the more likely it is that her mask is going to slip. So, and I feel this way a lot, Wendy G, where I start a Mormon Stories episode and then I have to come back to it later. I usually play it on 2x speed. Some of them are super long, but I really appreciate the deep dives. I appreciated for this episode that we did the opportunity to really dig deep and for each of us to give our opinions about what we thought about what was being presented and what was being shared. It was an opportunity to really dig deep into how we felt about everything. And I think it was necessary for me, at least, being so kind of thrown back into my family of origin by watching some of the things that Ruby said and did and the ways that she interacted with her kids. So I appreciated that opportunity. And even if nobody watches all 6 of the hours, it was healing for me. So I appreciated that. Terry says, hi, Megan. I grew up with a lot of dysfunction and trauma. I married and moved many states away. I married and have wonderful, no issues husband. My daughters never knew much of my life before. So just looking to see. Yeah, I agree with you, MB. Good enough is a terrible standard, but it is the standard. It's the legal standard because the law, nobody wants to take kids from their biological parents, and that's just the truth of it. And I will also argue that a good enough biological parent is way better than the foster care system. Way better. Even if that biological parent is only able to show up and give food, clothing, and shelter, and that's it. If there's no emotional support, there's no emotional safety, that's still better than the foster care system. In my opinion, I've never been a foster kid, but I've known a lot of foster kids. I've taught a lot of foster kids, and I just know how difficult it is. So very, 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 very difficult. Sherry Claiborne, you may ask my age. I'm always happy to say I am 50 years old, 50. I have a 30-year-old daughter. I have a 4-year-old grandson who's almost 5 and another one on the way. My youngest daughter is 15. I have 6 kids from the ages of 30 to 15. So my parenting journey is ongoing. Mary Armstrong, thank you so much for the super sticker. MB, thank you for being a member for 6 months. Love, love, love for you too. I'm always glad when you're here. And Possum in the Blossom, love your name. Here after seeing you on Mormon Stories, look forward to hearing more of your wisdom insight. Thank you so much. So Terry, continued question. As my daughters are now adults, I found they've been in relationships with abuse and dysfunction. It's like I'm living my childhood again. It hurts so much to see them hurt and struggle. I'm here with you, Terry. I feel that pain. It's really, really difficult. I think that where to start with that is just validating your kids, letting them know how valuable and important they are, helping them let go of the guilt and shame that they feel for different things, and just helping them to realize and understand that at a very baseline level, they are worthy of kindness and respect. And if someone is not treating them with kindness and respect, they don't need to give that person any of their time, any of their energy. And it's hard because that means ending some relationships where there might be this much good, and it's hard to let go of this much good when you've had so little in your life. But getting to the point where you value yourself enough to say that kindness and respect is more important to me than maybe the little bit of good that you're giving is a beautiful place to be. It's a hard place to get to. It's a lot of work, but it is super important. And I'm here to help if I possibly can. Yes, so WAP, thank you for sharing. Discovered you through Mormon Stories about a year ago, back when we were discussing Visions of Glory. That was an 8-hour-long episode. I think the first part of it where we were discussing the actual book itself was probably 5 hours. And then the second part, after we had some food, we discussed the different players in the circle of people who love the book Visions of Glory. And those people include people like Tim Ballard, who's got several lawsuits against him alleging SA and alleging that his organization didn't actually raise money or help children at all, but just took money away from other organizations that were helping the trafficking problem. Recognizing that trafficking does not have to exist somewhere outside of this country. It's not the typical model where someone gets kidnapped from their home and sold into slavery of some kind. 85% of the kids who are trafficked in this country are trafficked by a relative or an intimate partner. 85%. It is a real problem, and I have been I was very vocal at the beginning of my online journey, talking about the fact that Operation Underground Railroad was actually not helping children very much and was actually taking resources away from organizations that are helping children. So I will be outspoken about that. But Visions of Glory connects Tim Ballard, Jody Hildebrand, Ruby Frankie, Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, Julie Rowe, Ken Krogh, who's another therapist who had charges pressed against him for abusing clients, and lots of other people. If you haven't looked into those episodes, they're on the Mormon Stories YouTube page. All you have to look into is Visions of Glory and the Mormon Chaos, I think, or the Prepping Chaos. I don't remember exactly. Doomsday Preppers. But there were 2 episodes done on the same day. One was on the book Visions of Glory, and the other was on Tom Harrison and all of the different people that he is related to in this circle of Doomsday Preppers, Visions of Glory fans. Super important to talk about and to know about, because a lot of these people are interconnected and they are still out there in the community doing harm. Anybody who supports the book Visions of Glory as a good book needs to be questioned about this one smoking gun. Near the end of the book, where Spencer in Visions of Glory is talking about the end times, he's talking about gathering people for the second coming. The book says there is a law that we followed. It wasn't a rule, it was a law. That when we saw someone who is past feeling, who was beyond repentance, who we knew their hearts and we knew that they would not repent, we were allowed to deliver them from this mortal life, and their death would be a blessing to them. Their death would be a blessing to them because they would no longer accumulate sin in their divine ledger. It's justifiable homicide. It's inexcusable to promote that idea. However, on page 6 of the Book of Mormon, the very first few chapters of the Book of Mormon, the main prophet at the Book of Mormon, beginning of the Book of Mormon, named Nephi, goes and is directed by an angel to kill his enemy because his enemy has stolen the religious record of his family. So justifiable homicide is baked into Mormonism, and it is in the book Visions of Glory. It's one of the reasons I'll continue to speak out to it about it for as long as is necessary, until it's taken out of publication, until groups of people stop talking about it as a good book, until there are no more YouTube channels where they read the book and talk about how wonderful it is. Those channels are out there and they exist. So if you personally know someone who loves the book Visions of Glory, or who touts it as something valuable or something validating for their faith, ask them about that one passage. What do you think about this passage where normal, ordinary, regular people get to decide whether or not someone is past feeling? Are they going to repent or not? How do we know? If you saw the movie Minority Report, the whole movie was based on precognition and thinking someone's going to commit a crime before they actually commit a crime. If you can, I just want to put this out there. Okay, bottom line, nobody has the right to judge anyone else's heart or intentions. Yes, there are clues, there are warnings, there are red flags, but you can't convict someone of something they haven't done. Unfortunately, that's the way that society works. And so anyone who says that they have the right to take someone's life based on the fact that they might do something bad, that's an incredibly harmful and horrible idea. It needs to be denounced. It's in the book Visions of Glory. We should not be allowing this. We should not be raising it up as something that is a standard for us to operate our lives by. So, sorry for my rant. Sorry, not sorry. Just appreciate you guys being here, and thanks for contributing to the chat. Thanks for your subscribing. Thanks for your liking. Thanks for your donations and your memberships. And thanks for engaging in the chat and asking questions. So Terry goes on to say, is it a repeat for them? Do my genetic marks in eggs. I have a difficult time accepting and supporting them. How can I break the cycle for them? I think for me personally, it was getting to the point where I realized that a lot of my kids were not going to be like me, and they were not going to think the same way that I do, and they're not going to value the same things that I do. There's nothing wrong with that, having different values. And so I don't judge my kids for having different values than I do. What I want for them more than anything is for them to have a happy and peaceful and successful life by the markers that they determine success, not how I determine it. And so I have to ask them, what do you need from me? How can I best support you? Breaking the cycle of feeling marginalized and feeling less than comes from anybody, hopefully a parent, but anybody in their life who's willing to look at them and say, you are a valuable and beautiful human being, even if we don't agree. And that I love them no matter what choices they make in life. Now, if they make choices like Lori makes, I'm going to be with you every step of the way while we go to the jail, and while we go and confess for your crimes, and while we go and sit through trial. You plead guilty and you serve your time. I'll be there to support you. I'll still love you. I won't love what you did, but I'm also not going to sit over here and try to cover up what you did. I'm not going to try to help you to not face consequences for what you did. So it's always a difficult thing being a parent. There's no perfect way to do it, but I just think that the more that kids are loved and validated for who they are, the better off they are. And that's kind of all I have to offer about that. So, how was my trip? It was beautiful. It was wonderful. I had a great time. I really missed my kiddos while I was gone. It's always difficult to be away from them. It's always difficult to be away from my partner. It's never an easy choice to make, to say, okay, well, if I go on this day, it's half as expensive as if I go on this other day. And I was telling Margie afterwards, like, I just decided to be kind to myself this time and not try to like squeeze myself into this tiny little box of like leaving as late as possible and coming home as early as possible, but just giving myself time on either side of a few really difficult days. To just have space to like not worry about rushing to the airport, to just take the train, to just sit at the airport for a little while, to not be rushed. And it felt kinder to me, but I definitely counted the days and felt very separated from my kids and my partner. And that's always hard. But I made so many great contacts. I met so many beautiful people. I feel like it was really worth it. I feel like it was important for the podcast, for the channel, for, the future of the things that I'm working on. And it's always going to be a really hard trade-off for me. So it was a great trip, but a difficult one for that reason. Yeah, this is super interesting, WAP. At birth, a female baby has about 1 to 2 million oocytes, which are eggs, right? At puberty, a female has about 300,000. So obviously we shed a lot of those eggs, but they are all formed pretty much at the same time in the wombs of our mothers. So it's really interesting. Joe Tall Chief, this was the hardest part for me. I can't really think too much about it because it was so difficult. What those kids went through, I cannot even imagine. Yeah. Super, super difficult. Thank you guys for being here as we unpack these. It's always super heavy stuff, right? But this is the thing, somebody asked me, why do you want to keep digging into these super difficult, heart-wrenching cases? Like, why do you still want to keep talking about true crime, especially when true crime was not a thing that was on my radar prior to Lori? And here's the reason. It's because coming to an understanding of these cases and these dynamics helps people to do better for themselves, and helps people to make better choices in their relationships, and helps call out these dynamics so we recognize them before we get sucked in. I think this work is really, really important, and it's super hard. And there are so many times when I recognize that the world's problems are way too big for my tiny little channel. But I think the work is really, really important. So, oh, hey. Hey, Michael. It is great to see you, and I miss you too. Thanks for being such a beautiful and wonderful and amazing host. I had so much fun this weekend. SCIB asks just one solid question. How much blame do you think the church is accountable for when it comes to the trifecta, Lori, Ruby, and Tim Ballard? If it was a percentage or none, or percentage-wise, I can't say. But what I can say is that the built-in church structure causes members to seek for external validation. And when you don't validate yourself internally, you're looking for external validation all the time. It causes you to engage in really unhealthy relational patterns that you might not otherwise if you were self-validating from a much younger age. The other point that I want to make is that the church is very controlling of its members. Controlling church creates controlling parents. Controlling parents create abused children in many, many circumstances. Now, I'm not saying in every circumstance. There are plenty of healthy Mormon families out there. However, for families where healthy relational dynamics were not modeled for them, the church modeling that coercive control causes them to then translate that into their families. And I will also say that for people who have a predisposition for mental illness, especially cluster B, cluster C personality disorders are very dangerous in high demand religions. People with personality disorders are going to take a high demand religion and dial it up to the extreme. And that's where we get your Jodies. That's where we get your Rubies. That's where we get your Loris. That's where we get your Tim Ballards, where people like that are seeking for more and more validation, for more and more resources. And I would argue that it's more women than men, because in the church, which is a patriarchal system, there's a way for the men to be rewarded. They can be rewarded with positions of power, and they can be rewarded with authority and control. Women are not rewarded in that way. And so feeling invalidated, they're going to go seek for that somewhere else. And you even heard Kevin say this in the documentary. Being a wife and mother was not enough for Ruby. She felt she was meant for something more, and she went out and she looked for it, and she got it on YouTube. She got it by being a mommy vlogger, and she needed that validation. She didn't just look for it, but she needed it. And that need is what created the unhealthy dynamics that she perpetuated in her home. So the need for validation, the need for external control, the need for, a feeling in a patriarchal system where you have no power. And she was searching for power. So anyway, those are my opinions. Those are my thoughts. Certainly not scripture, certainly not gospel. Please take it with a grain of salt. There's so many, many things that I don't know. But from my experiences, that's my take on it. Do I think she'll actually take the stand? No, because she's her own attorney. So she's basically going to be testifying the whole time. She's questioning witnesses, etc. I don't think she'll take the stand because, how's that going to work? Is she going to cross-examine herself? I guess she could have assistant or advisory counsel cross-examine her, but I'm so sorry to hear this, AT chick. Mom wanted to keep hiding it, so I had to go stay with him without any other adult for another year. I'm so sorry about that. Love you guys. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate the support and the conversation here and the questions, giving me a chance to unpack all of the things. Keith Morrison interview airs on Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time at 7:45 here on the channel. We're going to meet. We're going to meet together. I'm going to have a live stream. I can't live stream the Dateline content because it will get stricken for copyright violations. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the live stream, I'm going to have the Dateline episode up on my TV, and I'm going to have you right here on my laptop in the chat. So I'm going to be watching it and chatting with you at the same time. So if you'll come to my channel at 7:45 on Friday, 7:45 Central Time on Friday, we will make sure that everybody has a place to watch it. Everyone will share where they're watching. And the episode is going to be 2 hours long. It's going to start at 8 p.m. Central Time. It'll go for 2 hours. After the episode is over, we'll have a little bit of a unpack, a little bit of a decompress. I'm going to need it. I don't know if the rest of you will. You're welcome to come and stay as long as you want. Leave when you want. Totally fine. I will answer questions afterwards. I'll talk about my thoughts afterwards. I have no idea how long it will go. Just as long as we need to unpack as a community, talk about our collective response to the things that she has to say and talk about, that's what this space is for. It is for you guys. It is for us to come together and support each other in the craziness that we are all experiencing due to the fact that Lori is out in the public eye. I think Lori is angry. I think she's angry about more than just her looks. Her mask has slipped more than one time. More angry than she is about literally anything else currently. It emanates. Yeah, it's possible. Yep. She really does think she's all that. 100%. Yep. She is totally vain. True, true, true. Yeah, Lynn, I mean, he is the consummate professional, and yeah. I think we're gonna see a lot of that in the interview. Thank you guys so much. Okay, thanks for validating, MB. Like, I don't know if that's 100,000,000% or 1,000,000% or what it is. As a former foster parent who's adopted 1 or 2 or 4, real, not real, but like biological parents are better than the foster system when possible. But some parents, I mean, the reason the foster system exists is because there are parents out there who should never be parents. And so that's the whole thing. But if a biological parent is healthy enough to be a good enough parent, then yeah, that's the standard. So many stories in here in the chat of you guys and your childhood trauma, and I just want to honor and say I'm with you. I see you. I hear you. You did not deserve it. It was not your fault. Thank you for sharing. And I'm so glad that you're here now and that we're talking about it now. Thank you. Thank you. Sometimes parents are not the best option. I 100% agree with that. Yep. Oh, goodness. I'm so sorry, you guys. Thank you for being here. AT Chick, I'm so sorry. Hey, Josh, it's great to see you here. Church eventually makes ex-Mormons of us all. The church taught me the things that led me out of the church. Personal integrity, absolute honesty, those things. Yeah. There are people who should just not be parents. So good to see you, Justine. Thanks for being here. Guys, I'm so sorry for these things that you're sharing. And I'm grateful for the support you're giving each other. And I highly recommend Jeanette McCurdy's book. This was so healing for me. I'm glad my mom died. So healing. It's always healing for me to read other people's stories of their struggles with their parents, because it makes me feel validated for the choices that I've made, and also helps me know that it could have been a lot worse. I don't like to get into the trauma Olympics. I don't think that there's any value in comparing trauma and saying one was worse than the other, because all trauma is trauma, and it affects all of us in different ways. And all I have to say about that is anybody who's been through something traumatic, that I hear you and I see you, and we're here with you. It doesn't matter if it was What some people call small t trauma, some people call big T trauma. I don't care. It's all trauma. And it all requires the same amount of difficult digging, introspection, personal honesty, healing, work, therapy. And it's not easy. It's not easy for any of us. We do that work with the hope that there is going to be healing and better things on the other side. And I can promise you that that is the truth. If you will dig into that work, you will see that healing on the other side. It's what I've seen. It's not easy, but it is so, so worth it. So I'm just here to support you. Thank you so much for this, Terry. I appreciate you, Terry. Thank you so much. MB says, I really want to come across a person in my life who's read and has positive things to say about Visions of Glory. I want to go to the mat. Prove it to me, right? I mean, tell me again what you loved about that book. I dare you to defend it. Yeah, it's so ridiculous. So ridiculous. Nobody can understand. Like this is the problem with humans trying to define deity, is that we're all going to get it wrong. We're all going to fall short of it. And none of us have the right to say that God told us to do a thing and then to go do that thing, especially when that thing affects the health and well-being of other people. It's just not right. And it should never happen. I don't know what Chad is thinking or feeling at this point, but I think he's probably feeling even more like Harry Potter now, although now he probably feels like Sirius Black as a prisoner in Azkaban. He feels like he's wrongly convicted and the Dementors are sucking his soul out, and I hope that's exactly how it is. Sorry, that is a little petty, but there it is. Oh, thank you, Joe Talchi, for representing, for supporting with the super sticker. Appreciate it. Yeah, and H.E. Chick, good point. Minority Report stars also in the Scientology cult that believes those things as well. But we know Hubbard took a lot of information from Mormonism. Yes, he took a page out of that book. And, if they say that if you want a lot of followers, if you want to make a lot of money to start a religion, that's what L. Ron Hubbard did. So, Trace on the case, great to see you. I'm not going to bother you since you're driving, but thanks for being here. I appreciate you. I fight with myself about this, Diana, about whether Chad really believed. I think a lot of his belief was rooted in manipulation and control. And I don't know if he really believes it. I think there was a point that he was really deluding himself, but I think mostly he was trying to convince other people. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, it was probably a lot of lust. I'm so glad, Ravina, you broke the cycle with your kids, pulled them away from anything that hurt you. Then I was nice. They're healthy, happy, very opinionated adults. I love that. I love that. MB says, I think Chad actually absolutely believed in himself. Then he gained a beautiful follower. And Queen B, I think he convinced himself he heard what he heard. I think there was some self-brainwashing there, some convincing. But I think a lot of that ended when he was convicted. And I think that's what we saw with that blank face, with the slumped shoulders, with him just sort of giving up. Lamisa, thank you for this validation. Glad you went for yourself and the betterment of your channel, your work and contributions. What you offer others is priceless. About healing and growth, I appreciate that so much. And yeah, Joe Tall Chief, there's a part of me that's like, if I'd never had kids, I never would have passed on this unhealthy religion. Yeah. And Kaya ignoring and refusing to look at it doesn't make the bad stuff stop happening. We're all going to have bad stuff happen to us. The thing is for us to develop some emotional resilience, to develop some really solid personal boundaries, I don't ever believe in external boundaries. Like, I don't want you to do X, Y, Z. It's always like, if you do that thing, then I'm going to do this thing. That's my boundary. So we're all going to have bad stuff. We just have to have a solid sense of self, a belief in our instincts and what's best for ourselves, and also a solid belief in our ability to heal when bad things do happen, because they're going to. And we're going to have grief, we're going to have disappointment, we're going to have sorrow. Just developing the skills to deal with those things is super, super important. I love this. Lamisa, true crime channel friends have become family. They help me get through every day with more ease and joy. Appreciate that. Thank you for this, Kaya. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you. Love you guys. Thanks for this. Thank you guys. I agree with this 100%, Ravina. The church attracts predators and rewards them. It's a very dangerous place for children. And I believe that the church also is kind of a safe place, right? It's a safe place for predators. We've seen the church protect predators over and over again. It's a breeding ground for narcissism. It's a breeding ground for people with personality disorders to work the system and take advantage of it. It's a really dangerous place because the church doesn't hold abusers accountable, and it gives them a place to have power and authority and access to vulnerable people. The reason why Mormons are vulnerable to coercive control is because we're taught to outsource our sense of self and our validation, and that creates some really, really harmful, difficult conditions. Thanks. Be real tutu. I can tell you're a good mama. I was never Mormon, but I do want to read Visions of Glory. To see if it'll make sense about the wackos. Thought Tim Ballard was a good guy. What? No. I'm going to recommend to you a podcast by someone I admire. Her name is Cara Burrell. She goes by Nuance Ho. She has a podcast called Timmy Did What, where they unpack all of the lawsuits that have been brought against him for abusing and taking advantage of vulnerable women and literally trafficking women, literally doing the thing that he's fighting against. Please look into it. He is not a good guy. Red flags everywhere. Definitely someone to avoid. Operation Underground Railroad. He stepped down as president, but it's still an organization that doesn't really help kids, and it takes money and resources away from the organizations that do help trafficking victims. So please look into it. I have thought so many times about digging into it here on the channel, but again, there's only so much time and only so many things that I can deal with. Once Lori's trial is over, I'll be able to dig into some other things, but for right now, that case is so freaking huge. It's almost as big as Lori's case. So I highly recommend, Lynn Packer is an excellent journalist who's done a lot of work on it. Vice News is a news outlet that's done a lot of work on it. Cara Burrell on the Timmy Did What podcast has done a lot of work on it. I'm going to leave all of that to them for right now. I will dig into it at some point on this channel, but man, please, please, please take a look at it. And please don't donate money to that organization. Me too. I wanted to believe it wasn't going to be terrible, but alas, it is. The end. Thank you so much, Terry, for your support. I really appreciate it so much. I want to be a member of the Filipino Food Club as well as a designated eater. Please set that up. I'll do it. Yes, they did make a movie about him saving the kids called Sound of Freedom. And it is based on completely false pretenses. It is a completely manufactured, made-up story where he relied on a psychic to lead him to a supposed missing child, which they never did find. He has taken tens of millions of dollars from people donating money to the cause of finding children when he has arguably found 0 children. He has arguably rescued 0 children. He has arguably prosecuted 0 perpetrators. He has arguably made the trafficking problem worse in other countries. I could go on, but it is late and I am tired and I don't have enough moral outrage for both him and Lori. And so I have to stay in my lane, and I'm very sorry. I'm just going to do some deep breathing. So sorry. So sorry, everyone. Just going to calm it all back down again. Thanks for being here, Lumisa. Love you so much. So grateful to see you as always. Thank you for your support and your kindness. Yes, the live stream is scheduled. It is up on my channel, 7:45 Central Time on Friday. So whatever that means for your particular time zone, it's already scheduled. You can go and like the episode right now. You can say notify me. It will send you a notification a half hour before my live stream goes up. So if you go on there, if you go onto my YouTube channel right now and you go find that episode, it's under lives, under the lives tab. You can click the like on it, and then you can hit notify me, and it's going to let you know exactly when it's going to go up. So it's already ready to go. Like, I'm already prepared. I've mentally prepared. I've set aside that time. It is happening. Data Lisa, you make me jealous for hiking in Hawaii. Yes, she's lost her mind, but also Dateline has lost their mind. Honestly, Dateline, like, what's the point at this point? Like, I get it. You need ratings, you need money, you need reviews. But what are we going to hear from her that we haven't already heard? That's the point. Is there anything really valuable in this? Is there a reason for doing it right now prior to her trial? Or are you just taking advantage? I have a feeling you're just taking advantage, which I get it. I'm a business person. I understand. You have to strike while the iron's hot. You have to get the audience while the audience is ready for it. I get it, 100%. However, if you consider all the factors, if you consider everything that's going on, why now? That's my question. No, I'm not doing this. I would be on the floor in 5 minutes. Oh, absolutely not. Cannot do it. Will not. I mean, you go ahead and have a good time. I want to be able to get up the next morning. So yeah, no, don't reschedule your date, MB. It's totally not worth it. Just watch it on the replay. It'll still be there. It's going to be just as gross and ugly on the replay. Okay? Don't reschedule your date. It's not worth it. This is a great question, but I feel, Martha, like it is something that I need to unpack another time. We're at almost 2 hours. I'm feeling super tired. Will you email me, Martha T, askmegan@gmail.com, ask Megan with 2 E's. I'll do a separate episode on this because it's a great question. I actually really love it. Yeah, not all women should be mothers. I'm going to do an episode about that. Oh, thank you guys. Thanks so much for this. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Sherry's book was crazy, but it was such a good read. It was so well written. It was amazing. Yeah, there are good people left in this world, and I just appreciate you guys. I'm so sorry. I'm going to skip through some of these if they're not questions. I appreciate you guys so much. I wish I had time to honor everything that's being said and to read every single thing, but I just really don't. I'm feeling tired and I'm ready to turn in, so I'm looking for questions. Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for all of the support. I appreciate you guys so much. I would love to get together with Cara Burrell. I've reached out to her a couple times, but I'm sure that she gets tons of messages, so I'll keep reaching out to her. This is awful, Kaya. I'm so sorry that you've been through this, and we're going to keep talking about it. Yeah, it's so true, right? People get super defensive and angry because they think Tim Ballard is like some kind of a hero, but just look at the allegations against him. All of these people who have come out, there's so many of them. Yeah, Mormon Stories has done some good work on Tim Ballard as well. I agree with this assessment. Just scrolling through really quick. Yeah, Lauren's done some good work on Tim Ballard as well. Thanks, Lynn Bowen. Appreciate that. Yes, love Cara Burrell. Thank you guys so much for everything. Yes, that movie where he rescued kids from trafficking, which he didn't actually do. Find me one person who actually has been rescued and helped by Operation Underground Railroad. They don't have any receipts about that. And they're like, well, we're protecting the victims, which I get that. But you can still publish statistics on how many kids you helped and how you helped them and how much money went to the specific services that you offered them. Breathing. Thanks, Miss Mojo. It's so great to see you as always. Um, I don't really have a comment about this right now. Maybe ask me later or email me. I don't know what she's studying in college. Um, but she is a beautiful human being. I'm so grateful for everything she's put out. Her book is amazing. Um, yeah, if you've donated, you probably feel complicit. That's got to be hard to face and hard to help. Yep, this is exactly true. He created trafficking opportunities. You do have to look into charities that you donate, how much actually goes towards the the people who are being harmed, etc. Yeah. Um, I don't know what to say about this except that I don't know. I don't do, Botox and fillers. I just try to be good to myself and drink lots of water. Anyways, I hope that you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for your support. I hope to see as many of you as possible on Friday. I'd love to have lots and lots of people in the chat. I don't want to go through that alone. And I'd love to have lots of snark because I feel like that's kind of what it's going to be like. So I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for everything that you do for the channel. Thank you for your support. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Thanks for sharing with the people who you know need to hear it. And please take care of each other, but most of all, take care of yourself. Put on your own oxygen mask first, fill up your cup first, and then you can fill other people's cups. Thank you for being here and filling my cup tonight. I love you, beautiful human beings, and I will see you again very, very soon. Tomorrow night, we've got Disney Detective, live Q&A afterwards, and Friday night, the Lori Shot Show. We'll see you then. Take care.